Today's story comes from an excerpt from the Journal of the Ceylon Branch of the Royal Asiatic Society, Volume 4, Colombo Apothecaries Company, published in 1866. I've included the link in the show notes. Maha Kola Sanni Yaksha, or the Great Yaksha of the Fatal Diseases, according to one account, sprang into existence from the ashes of the funeral pile of Asupala Kumari, a princess of the city of Visala Mahanura is translated as the Great Extensive City and is referred to in many folkloric stories. However, why Sanni is recorded as showing up there is actually a mystery. Another account makes him the son of a king of a city called Sankapalanura. Here's the story. This king, says the account, made a trip into the countryside to collect something the queen craved during pregnancy. When he returned to the palace a few days later, he was met by one of the queen's servants. Unknown to him, this servant wanted to ruin the queen. She told the king that while he had been away, the queen had been unfaithful to his bed. When the king heard this, he was deeply injured. He ordered that the queen be put to death. Her body was to be cut into 2 pieces, of which one was to be hung upon an oakberry tree, and the other to be thrown at its foot to be devoured by dogs. When the queen heard of this, strong in her own might, she was enraged beyond measure. She claimed her innocence. She declared, "If this charge be false, may the child in my womb be born this instant a demon, and may that demon destroy the whole of this city with its unjust king." The king's executioners did as they were ordered. Half of the corpse, suspended on the tree, fell to the ground and united with itself to the other half, which was at the foot of the tree. The corpse gave birth to a demon that consumed its mother's body from breast to blood to flesh and bones. It devoured her. Unsatisfied, the demon went to the Sahon graveyards in the vicinity, where it lived upon dead carcasses. Later, it returned to the city, joined by a retinue of several more demons. The demon inflicted a mortal disease on the king and devoured the citizens of Sankapalanura. Within a very short period of time, the city was nearly depopulated. Seeing the ferocity of this new demon, the gods Ishwara and Sekra came down to the city, disguised of course as mendicants, and after some resistance from the demon, subdued him. They ordered him from that day to abstain from eating men. They gave him a varun, which is a set of rules from which to behave. He had permission to inflict disease on mankind and to obtain offerings from them in return for their cure. So one version of the story claims Maha Kola Sanni destroyed the city of his birth, seeking vengeance on his father, the king. He created 18 lumps of poison, and charming them, he thereby turned them into demons who assisted him in his destruction of the city. They killed the king and continued to wreak havoc in the city, killing and eating thousands daily, until finally being tamed by the Buddha and agreeing to stop harming humans. According to some accounts, this demon has 4,448 attendants, and according to others, there is 484,000 subject demons under him. He is said to ride a lion, and he has 18 principal attendants. His attendants have varied throughout modern history. I'll give you a summary of them from the 1866 source, but I've also looked up and found other lists of 18 Yaksha followers, and so I'll comment on them as I'm going through them. So the first of his host is the Bhuta Sanni Yaksha. This is the demon of madness. Bhuta are ghosts, and so I believe this to be the Yaksha that relates to the possession by spirits. The second is Maru Sanni Yaksha, or the demon of death. So this is the Yaksha for death and delirium. The third is called Jala Sanni Yaksha. He's the demon of cholera. Later versions of this Yaksha includes chills, And a variation of this called the Guinea Jali Sanni Yaksha specifically is for malaria and other high fevers. There's a fourth Yaksha, Royal Sanni Yaksha. This is the demon of cold and trembling fits. The fourth Yaksha isn't mentioned in more of the recent lists. I think this might be because of modern day medicine associating cold and trembling fits to disease. So this Yaksha has essentially been replaced by the Jala Sanni or Guinea Sanni Yakshas. The fifth one is the Naga Sanni Yaksha, and this is the demon of disease resembling the sting of a cobra. In later versions, they also include bad dreams and poisoning. The 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th Sanni Yakshas are the Kana, Kora, Golu, and Bihiri. And these are the Yaksha that represent blindness. Kora is for lameness, paralysis, and swollen joints. Golu is for dumbness, and Bihiri is for deafness. The 10th Sanni Yaksha is Vata, and this is the demon of diseases caused by the wind. Later versions include flatulence, rheumatism, and the shaking and burning of the limbs. The 11th is Pit Sanni Yaksha, or the demon of bilious diseases. The 12th is Sen Sanni Yaksha. This is the demon of diseases influenced by phlegm. This demon has come to also represent epilepsy, but in more recent versions, this Yaksha is left out. Again, this is possibly because of the grouping of phlegm-related diseases by Western medicine to other diseases. The 13th Sanni Yaksha caused me to pause because it's called the Demala Sanni Yaksha. And the translation, he represents, talking nonsense, mispronouncing words. And this one brought me pause because I was thinking about the racism that might persist in Sri Lankan communities against the Tamil diaspora, prejudice, and the like. And so I'm assuming that this has to do with cross-community interactions and potentially the vilification of the Tamil people. So I was a little bit stunned by this. If anyone in the audience knows anything about this, by all means, leave a comment. So the 14th is Murthu Sanni Yaksha, or the demon of fainting fits, loss of consciousness, and swoons. The 15th is Arda Sanni Yaksha, or the demon of apoplexy. This demon is not mentioned by more recent records, and it's possibly due to overlap with other demons. But I have reference to an opposing Beta Sanni Yaksha, who is the Yaksha for confused behavior and timidity. So perhaps as the society perceives behavior as undesirable or desirable, the names of the Yaksha change. The 16th is Vedi Sanni Yaksha, or the demon of disease which kills one instantly like a shot from a gun. I imagine this particular demon did not exist in 500 BCE, or if it did, maybe it represented heart and stroke. Who knows? The 17th is Deva Sanni Yaksha. And this is an interesting Yaksha because it is the demon of diseases influenced by the gods. Some list this Yaksha as representing epidemic diseases like typhoid, cholera, and the rest. Again, there's overlap with other diseases, but Western audiences may be confused by this Yaksha because in Sri Lanka, there is a belief that persists that you can be influenced by good and bad gods. So Huniyam is a form of black magic practiced on the island, and the belief persists that someone can become sick because of an unhappy deity or a curse requested from a deity. And so this is where Deva Sanni Yaksha comes in. Now, the 18th in the 1866 version is called Aturu Sanni Yaksha, and he's the servant of Maha Kola Sanni Yaksha. And this Yaksha is not mentioned in most recent years. So coming back to Maha Kola Sanni Yaksha, the Yaksha in the story who was birthed under a tree by his dead mom, that Yaksha is the chief of all of these Yaksha, and there is a whole host of Yaksha. And they are all separate Yaksha. They are all separate individual Yaksha. They are not all one Yaksha in different aspects of one Yaksha. No, they are like a host of Yaksha. So I mentioned how a few of these hosts have changed in more recent years. So there are a few other Yaksha that I didn't include in my list of 18, but here are a few more. Gedi Yaksha is for boils, furuncles, and skin disease. Gulma Sanni Yaksha is for parasitic worms and stomach issues. issues. And then there's a few more that I have a feeling that, depending on who recorded the folklore or who recorded the history, were dependent on shamans, mask makers, dancers, someone's great uncle who remembers the day. And so as the memory of things change, people will fill in words that have meaning to them today that may not have been used before. So there's also apparently a Kalpana Sanni Yaksha, a Pissu Sanni Yaksha, and a Veda Sanni Yaksha, where Kalpana means mind, Pissu means crazy, and Veda means medicine. And so I left these off the list because I felt like they were more recent constructs. Let's talk a little bit about the position of Yaksha in society, because I think that Western audiences would be very confused by what a yaksha is. We're not talking about the Christian concept of good and evil here. We're not talking about a demon that is irrevocably a demon and will be a demon forever. No. Everything in the Buddhist cosmology goes up or comes down, and it's based on their actions. So yaksha in this context is translated to demons by colonializing Christians who mistook yaksha for demons. And today yaksha are synonymous with demons, but they are actually spirits, and they don't have good or bad intent. The evidence is that yaksha are spirits subject to the gods. That the gods permit a yaksha to take a life implies that the spirit is subject to the whim of someone greater, like a greater being or greater force. The yaksha featured in Buddhist Jataka stories are often unaware that they have a choice between good actions and bad, and once faced with the consequence of their bad actions, they often choose a path that is good. For this reason, yaksha are not the same thing as the Christian concept of a demon. They are some sort of spirit creature that can, through their own choices, be benevolent or nasty. And so they're more close to the Western concept of a fairy or a fairy creature. We'll dive more into yaksha and demons of Lanka in future episodes of Myths and Samsara. But back to Maha Kola Sanni Yaksha. So it was believed that illnesses were inflicted by humans by yaksha, and these beliefs and rituals were passed on through generations. Some believe the yaksha originated in the time of the Buddha, but there's no real way of proving this. The Chronicles of Lanka did not begin until 500 years after the Buddha's time. Each of the Sanni Yaksha are believed to affect humans in a form of an illness. And the Sanni Yaksha ritual summons these yaksha and banishes them back to the yaksha world after bringing them under control. Although it is unclear when the ritual began, it has been performed in the southern and western parts of Sri Lanka since ancient times. So let's talk about manifesting healing, harnessing the power of the individual through theater and community. The Sanni Yaksha ritual is considered to be outdated in today's world. Western and Ayurvedic medicine holds sway amongst modern Sri Lankans. But perhaps the Sanni ritual, which anthropomorphized the yaksha through characterizing the illness, acts as a placebo to convince the sick to get well in exchange for the offerings made to the yaksha. So dialogues in the ritual make the powerful devils appear weak, giving the impression that the illness can be overcome. The patient is reassured that they can overcome their illness, and scientifically this may have some benefit as a placebo effect. Putting the patient center stage during a ritual and having their family and community around them can also serve to boost a patient's mental confidence in getting better. Sri Lankan culture permeates with the belief that contributing to another's well-being will be paid back 1,000 times over. As a result, there is a benefit to the entire village and community participating and invoking blessings for not only the patient, but for everyone who participates and everyone who attends. The masked dancers are funny. Their dialogue is satire. The chief ritualist aims to help both the patient and the community. Humor and satire is a significant aspect of the Sanni Yakuma ritual, drawing spectators. The ritual also incorporates Ayurvedic remedies. The arena and the patient's house is disinfected using tonics from local herbs known to kill germs and viruses. Turmeric mixed with water is sprayed on the patient and the arena throughout the ritual. The ritual begins with a lime cutting ceremony. Mantras are chanted in front of the patient, and limes are cut, placing them in a bowl of turmeric mixed water. The leaves of the kohomba tree and fire are used during the ritual. Fragrant fossilized plant material called dumala is burned by sprinkling it on a burning charcoal Kabbalah fire pan and carried around the arena and inside the patient's house to infuse the circulating air with Dumala smoke. From a spiritualist standpoint, the sight of the mass dancers, the sound of the music and drums, the sound of the satirical conversations, the smell of incense, the feel of water splashing on your face, the smell of cut limes and burning wood, the feel of the cohumba leaves when they touch your skin, all of these things are designed to bring a person into connection with their surroundings. If there is a spirit that haunts and causes the illness, the act of grounding the patient, surrounding them with a bath of sense and sound, and overwhelming them with the ritual could potentially chase a yaksha spirit away, leaving the patient's body alone to rest, rejuvenate, and recover. Or perhaps the yaksha entertained, fulfilled through the offerings of entertainment, sound, and smell, decides to part of its own volition. Who am I to say?